Travel can be really exciting, if not necessary, but with all the airline issues, safety concerns, and unpredictable stressors, it can feel more overwhelming than freeing. So, how do we navigate all this? I had this conversation with CJ Robinson, the host of Channel Q Radio, where we discussed how to manage the stress, learn from our experiences, and move forward in a smoother way. Have a listen.
All right. Once again, it is Therapy Thursday, being joined by James Guay, licensed marriage and family therapist out of Southern California. Thank you so much for being back with us.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here.
So, I want to talk this week about managing stressful travel. I feel
Mm,
like this has been a
mm,
topic that's been part of the news a lot lately with the different airline instances, the near misses, the unfortunate plane crashes. And
yes.
a lot of people are going to be traveling. A lot of people are going to be going on work travel. That's a big thing this time of year. And
Mm,
sometimes those
mhm,
places take us to, destinations we wouldn't normally pick, but we have to go for work, right?
mm,
So, with all of the recent news regarding, airlines, trains, cars, etc., what are
mm.
ways that we can check that stress before the trip even comes?
I think to be aware that it's there in the first place is important, right? And then being able to address and attend to any of the fears, the concerns that are there. It has been in the news cycle more. And yet, air flight is still far less dangerous than car travel or those kinds of things, even though it can bring up more of a sense of being out of control. We're not driving, there's a pilot, we're in the air, not on the ground. There's all kinds of things like that. But just to recognize that those concerns are there. And then if there's anything that we can do to practice, before we're going to go on our trip, to calm our nervous system, to take care of our physical health and well being, getting good rest, having nutrition, drinking water, the basics, right? And then being able to practice stress reducing exercises like deep breathing, breathing in, holding, and then breathing out for a longer period of time to regulate our nervous systems. If we can do things in preparation to pack the day before, to give ample time to make it to our destination, to reduce and mitigate any stressors that might otherwise be there, I think that's really helpful.
And I think the breathing thing, to kind of go, not even the travel aspect, but just kind of like sitting in
Mm,
TSA, being
mm,
around rude people, I think that's a big
mhm.
thing that oftentimes people overlook because the first thing is I have to react. Whereas,
Right.
like, if you just take a minute, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, you may not react the same way because you just kind of calmed yourself a bit.
Yeah, yeah. If we're operating from a place of stress and triggers and trauma and panic, then we're not going to be operating at our best, obviously, right? So it's about progress and practice, not perfection. It's about practicing these things on the day to day so that we can utilize them when we need them the most, right?
Yep.
So even days, weeks in advance of our travel, we can do some of the things that we're talking about, that deep breathing, that centering, that reality check for ourselves. Okay, what is this fear? Not to judge it, but just to name it, be curious, and provide observations, statistics, whatever is useful for us to get more comfortable with whatever activities that we're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah. And, something that, a lot of people might be going through is, work travel,
Mm,
right? Maybe it's a
mm,
destination that you don't necessarily feel comfortable going to. Maybe it's a place that
mm,
isn't, LGBTQ friendly. Maybe it's overseas
mm,
and you don't know the laws. What are some
mm,
things to look for when traveling, especially abroad, if you are
mhm.
LGBTQ plus?
Yeah, it can be useful to know, to research some of the local laws and attitudes towards LGBTQ people. What would happen in instances? How would you respond in dangerous situations? To book LGBTQ friendly accommodations, to not assume everywhere is safe, to also recognize not every place is dangerous, right? To
Right.
find that middle ground, to figure out, okay, what are the risks? What are the benefits? And what are the ways to mitigate those risks while still being able to enjoy ourselves and be who we are? That may show up differently depending on who you are and what risks and benefits you're willing to succumb yourself to. But,
Right.
it's important to recognize those things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, stress management when you're in an unfamiliar place, maybe you get into that situation where, you thought
Mhm.
it was gonna be fine, but you get there and you're like, this isn't exactly that." What's an
Yeah.
important step that people can take to kind of bring themselves back to, "Okay, I'm in this situation, what now?"
I think building trust in ourselves to be able to navigate accordingly, right? Things often don't end up the way that we hope or imagine. Either it's not our worst case scenario that came to play, or it's not our ideal. And so being able to be flexible, to pivot, to navigate accordingly if you miss a flight or train, or don't get that rental car, or don't make it to your destination in the time frame that you had hoped for, to flex, right? So that we're not sort of set in stone and more breakable, but we're more flexible and fluid so that we can adapt to the situations that come our way. And that takes time and practice and being in situations, that life presents
Yeah.
oftentimes.
And you said it best, trusting yourself that in the
Yeah,
moment, I can handle myself. I'm going to be able to handle the situation. Because again, we don't really
right,
know these situations if they were to occur until they happen. And
right.
then that's when you find out, how do I react in these situations? So, do you have any
Yeah.
like best practices for future trips to ensure
Mm.
certain patterns don't happen? Because sometimes we can fall
Mhm.
into travel patterns, right?
Totally, totally. Yeah, really recognizing what worked, what did we do well, what helped us to have greater ease in our trips, what was stressful, are there any ways that we can respond to it differently or prepare in advance? Building enough recovery time after our trip to maybe not like immediately go right back into like the work world, maybe have a day break in between if you can, and to refine some of the essentials, the checklists, the ways of going about it, the documents there's just so many practical steps to really be aware of and attend to in these situations. So,
So, just throwing it out there, right? Because we're
mhm.
talking about travel, and I feel like we just got to have
Mm,
this conversation.
sure.
Life's heavy right now. If you could pick one travel destination to go to just kind of ease your mind, where would it be?
Mm. I love it. In years past, I've always loved Southeast Asia, actually. Thailand, Philippines, get me in a humid, hot weather with blue turquoise waters and, the culture, the food, that works for me. But whatever works for you, what does work for you,
See,
CJ?
I live in that. I live in Central Florida, so it's hot and humid. I tell
Gotcha.
people I live in the armpit of the USA. So for
Right.
me, I think someplace like Switzerland.
Oh,
Someplace
nice.
completely different. The crystal blue,
Uh,
the lakes, and
nice,
some
nice.
chocolate and maybe some Prost with some beer. That's kind of my speed.
Love it. Hey, whatever works for us, right?
Well, once again, James Gay, licensed marriage and family therapist. Thank you once again for being here and chatting with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.